Imagine a land forged through centuries of battles, betrayals, and revolutions. A land where kings and queens shaped empires, where the echoes of past decisions still influence the world today. England, a nation that has been the heartbeat of history, forever transforming the course of time. But how did this small island rise to dominate the globe? How did it go from a fragmented collection of tribes to the empire upon which the sun never set? Join us as we uncover England's incredible journey, from its ancient roots to its role as a modern-day power. This is England, from kings to revolutions. Long before England had kings, it was a land of tribal warfare and mystery. The British Isles were home to ancient Celtic tribes, who lived in small, scattered communities, their daily lives revolving around the rhythm of nature, and their destinies entwined with the gods they worshipped. But everything changed with the arrival of the Romans. In 43 AD, Emperor Claudius led the Roman conquest of Britain, changing the course of history forever. For nearly 400 years, Britain would be a Roman province. The Romans brought with them roads, towns, and a system of governance that would lay the foundation for the future of England. The Roman influence can still be seen in the ruins of Hadrian's Wall, the remnants of Roman baths, and the ancient roads that still crisscross the country today. But with the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century, Britain was left vulnerable. What followed was an era of chaos and fragmentation, as waves of invaders, Anglos, Saxons, and Jutes, poured into the island, each leaving their mark. From this chaos, a new identity emerged, and a new kingdom, England, was born. By the 8th century, the Anglo-Saxons had established their rule over most of what we now call England. But even in this early period, England was not a unified kingdom. Instead, it was a patchwork of small, competing kingdoms, constantly at war with each other and with invaders from the north and east. Yet, from the shadows of these constant battles arose one of the most famous figures in English history. Alfred the Great, King of Wessex, stood as a beacon of resistance against the Viking invasions of the 9th century. The Vikings, fierce seafaring warriors from Scandinavia, had ravaged the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, but Alfred's leadership and military genius turned the tide. His victory at the Battle of Edington in 878 was a turning point, and he became the first king of a united England, laying the groundwork for a unified Anglo-Saxon kingdom. Alfred was more than a warrior. He was a scholar and a reformer. He established legal codes, promoted education, and encouraged the use of the English language in writing, rather than Latin. His reign marked the beginning of a golden age for the Anglo-Saxons, an era that would end, tragically, with a single catastrophic event. The year was 1066. England, in a moment of fragile peace, found itself on the cusp of one of its most pivotal moments. When King Edward the Confessor died without a clear heir, a struggle for the throne broke out between two claimants, Harold Godwin's son, the Anglo-Saxon lord, and William of Normandy, a distant relative of Edward. The fate of England would be decided in a bloody, brutal battle. At the Battle of Hastings, on October 14, 1066, Harold's army was decisively defeated by William, who would forever be known as William the Conqueror. The Normans, bringing with them a new language, culture, and system of rule, reshaped England in profound ways. Castles sprang up across the land, marking the domination of the Normans, while the Anglo-Saxon elite was displaced by a new Norman aristocracy. But the Norman Conquest was more than just a shift in rulers. It marked the beginning of a centuries-long period of feudalism, with vast estates controlled by nobles, and the common people bound to the land as serfs. For the next few hundred years, England would be ruled by a line of Norman and Plantagenet kings, each leaving their mark on the country, whether through war, diplomacy, or reform. As the centuries passed, England became embroiled in a series of epic struggles, none more dramatic than the 100 Years' War. This 116-year conflict with France would shape the future of both nations, as England sought to expand its influence and control over French territories. The war saw some of England's most legendary figures rise to prominence. The English longbowmen, led by King Edward III and his son, the Black Prince, won significant victories. But it was Joan of Arc, the French peasant girl, who would become the symbol of French resistance against English domination. The war, however, was not only about military prowess. It was a struggle for identity, with the English kings wrestling with their claims to French lands, and the French fighting to preserve their national sovereignty. Though England ultimately lost the war and its French holdings, the conflict had already left a lasting mark on English society that would soon face a rebellion far more internal. In the 15th century, England was torn apart by the Wars of the Roses, an epic struggle between two noble houses, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The war was not just about power, it was about the very future of the English throne. After years of brutal conflict, it was Henry Tudor, a distant relative of the Lancastrians, who emerged victorious at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. Henry VII, the first Tudor monarch, claimed the throne and united the warring factions through his marriage to Elizabeth of York, symbolizing the end of the Civil War. The Tudor dynasty would rule England for over a century, and under their reign, England would experience some of its most dramatic transformations. The reign of Henry VIII, famous for his 6 marriages and the English Reformation, set the stage for the birth of the Church of England, breaking away from the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, his daughter, Elizabeth I, would lead England through its golden age, cementing its place as a dominant global power. By the 17th century, tensions between the monarchy and Parliament reached a boiling point. King Charles I's belief in the divine right of kings clashed with the growing power of Parliament, leading to the outbreak of the English Civil War in 1642. What followed was one of the most dramatic moments in English history, the execution of Charles I in 1649. For the first time in history, a reigning monarch was publicly put to death, and England briefly became a republic under Oliver Cromwell. The monarchy was restored in 1660, but the balance of power had shifted forever. The 18th and 19th centuries were marked by the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, a period that radically changed every aspect of English life. From the coal mines of Yorkshire to the bustling factories of Manchester, industrialization transformed England into the workshop of the world. The steam engine, invented by James Watt, fueled an era of unprecedented innovation, while railroads, factories, and cities grew at a staggering rate. This industrial boom went hand in hand with the rise of the British Empire, as England expanded its reach across the globe, colonizing vast swathes of Africa, India, and the Americas. The British Empire was the largest empire the world had ever known, and its influence stretched from the deserts of Egypt to the islands of the Pacific. The 20th century saw England confront its most significant challenges yet. The 2 world wars would test the nation's resilience like never before. In World War I, England faced unprecedented loss, as millions died in the trenches of France. The war altered England's social fabric and weakened its global dominance. World War II, however, would see England rise to the occasion once again. Under the leadership of Winston Churchill, the nation withstood the Blitz and stood firm against Nazi tyranny. The post-war years saw the decline of the British Empire, as former colonies gained independence, and the establishment of the welfare state, reshaping the nation's economy and society. Today, England stands as a modern, multicultural society, having navigated the rise of global powers, technological advancements, and economic challenges. Yet, its past, marked by kings and revolutions, by wars and empires, continues to shape its identity. From the Roman Conquest to the Brexit referendum, the history of England is still being written. From kings to revolutions, from empire to the modern era, England's history is one of constant change, growth, and reinvention. A land shaped by its past, yet constantly looking towards its future. What will England's next chapter look like? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: its history will continue to echo across the centuries to come.